Do you really see any way out of this? It's crazy. I do. I do. But I think it'll come at losing almost all hope. Because that's the only way people change. That's the only way people it knocks them back into some sense of reality of what's important. I always go back to the covenant with God that the original founders, when they stepped on Plymouth, made on Plymouth Rock. There's a dedication to them. They were all. Everything was about their faith and being led by God, and that's how America began, really. Even though the whole Constitution and all that stuff was 1776, it started technically when they stepped on Plymouth Rock and they prayed to God and made a covenant with God. So covenants God doesn't break, but we break. And so the covenant that was made by those founders is what's protected America, because for a long time, and maybe we still are, I'm not sure of the statistics now, but for many years, we're the biggest Christian nation that believes in Jesus Christ, and yet somehow we've been taken into a ton of wars, yes, but as far as suffering mass casualties on the homeland, well, we didn't, and that is until 9/11, obvious. But 9/11 should have been a wake-up call in many ways to turn back to God, because that wouldn't have happened if God was still fully protecting this country. So my experience with God, as I've said before, was, at 23, I think I was 23, 24 years old. And I just saw a life that there was no life. There was no hope for me. I was just going to be dead. I couldn't stop drinking. It was a vicious circle. It was destroying me. And what it took was me surrendering to that. None of the science can help me, and they couldn't, and they still can't. And I've explained why. They won't be able to ever cure the alcoholic. No pill, because it's a spirit. The founders of Alcoholics Anonymous understood it because they were alcoholics, and one was a surgeon and one was like a tax CPA guy. But it's a spiritual malady. It's a spiritual void. So there is no medicine to fix that. There's no there's not even really any therapy to fix that. It's God. And so anytime you read in the Bible about people coming to, that place where they realize, I need to follow God, it's usually at a moment when they realize all hope is lost and they surrender. And God waits until then, usually, because not to make us suffer so much but it's just the nature of, it's human nature that we won't get it otherwise. We won't learn. So so when I remember the day I surrendered, I was begging to God, like, I can't do this anymore. Take me out of this world or something. If you exist, please, please do something. And the next day I was at an AA meeting. I don't know. I just walked in. And then all I did from there on out, I didn't think it was going to help. But I just put one foot in front of the other and took the next step, did the next right thing, and continued to do that until I suddenly realized, wait a minute, I'm not the same person I was. Like, it wasn't just that I was relieved from the desire to drink, which is only a daily reprieve, because there's still many days I want to, and that's why I lean on God. That's why most people that have recovered through Alcoholics Anonymous, they lean heavily on God, because many have learned, and I had a relapse after a couple of years, so I learned that it's like, no, you don't get to a place where you're just cured. But that's kind of a blessing, because then it makes you stay in contact with God regularly. Because you drink, when you're stuck in that vicious circle of alcoholism, for me, that's as close to hell as I could get. It's that bad. and it seems there's no way out. But God gets you out, but it took surrendering. And I think that's the same thing here. I think that a lot of it is up to us. I do. I don't think God wants to lift his protection on us, but if we weren't facing some of these things, we wouldn't get to this place where we realize that there is something that's higher and greater than us that has protected America. Because there's a reason the Middle East is constantly got, bombs going off everywhere, especially in Israel, but every other places. They're always at war. I mean, even Trump had talked about this, they're desert gangs. They just want to beat each other, just like they just want to go to war with each other. He's talked about something similar to that. And then, look at China. They may have a big economy, but their people are totally oppressed. And so most of the world is either under communism, socialism. That's what Canada and UK. It's a socialist system, which it can stay a socialist system for a long time, and that works for the powers that be, like the World Economic Forum and the UN. So everything is riding on America right now. I mean, if you see any stuff from other countries, even though the news won't show you. At least when I was still on Parler, I'd see people from Australia and the UK saying, America, it's all on you to save the rest of the world, believe it or not. Yeah, look at how good we're doing with that. Not that we're not. But I think what it takes is, if they get America, which that's why they're going balls to the wall with everything. That's why they're showing their ugly selves. Because they know they won't get another chance to do it. So they're gonna pull out all the stops to do it, and if that means they'll destroy who they have to. This is what happens when BlackRock owns everything, and Vanguard, and you have the World Economic Forum, which has the most richest CEOs and your Fortune 500 people who are just not right in their head. There's something to be said for that. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with being wealthy or a billionaire, but there's something to be said that many people end up down a track to where something happens to their mind and they become crazy. And I'm saying that as a professional. I am, because if you look at the ideas the World Economic Forum and the UN has, okay, that all of the heads of our institutions have gotten on board with and signed on to many years ago with our government, you're like, these people, there's something wrong with their head. Yes, there is. It's kind of why God said the root of all evil is money. One of the reasons. Not that money is evil, but what it can do to you. Come up, and this is what happens in history, why people end up under oppression is because of sick people that have a lot of money that come up with these ideas that really the people never stop to think that, no, these are sick people. People at the World Economic Forum are sick people. All you have to do is look at their agenda. But I think what is happening now, I do have hope. It's just on God's timing, and I think ultimately that's what has to be seen, is that there's no one person that can come in and save. I mean, God can do it however he wants, but that's what people have to see, is that ultimately, when you look at the history of America and you go all the way back to the Plymouth Rock, God has protected America. And so with all this happening, you should ask yourself, why is this happening? Well, it's happening because God has lifted some of that protection, and that's how we have become oppressed and have all these sick people pushing this stuff on children and doing this horrible stuff they're doing in healthcare. And what you ultimately have to see is that there needs to be enough people that turn back to God. And sometimes, and I think it's not sometimes, it's always the way it is, unfortunately, is that comes with having to see that almost all is lost. And then God comes in, and believe me, he'll change it all to something that we don't know how it will look, but it won't be run by the World Economic Forum, the UN, or any of these sick people. Don't lose hope.